Once data has been mapped and loaded into Admin UI, it is advised to go into VA Hub and check the visualization. Remember, dosing and exposure view will not be present if VK concentration and specimen collection both have been mapped and loaded into Admin UI. The dose PK response exploration tab will only be present if both RECIST data 1 and 2 have already been mapped and loaded into Admin UI. So log into VA Hub and select the study. This takes you into the visualizations. Select dosing and exposure view. And we can see for this one, we have analyte concentration over time and dose proportionality exploration, because when we mapped our data, we only mapped the two files, PK concentration and specimen collection. RECIST data has not been mapped yet, and therefore the PK response exploration tab and visualization are not present. It's useful to check the filters have loaded correctly and populated with the correct information. So if we click on the filters, you can see that we've got analyte, cycle, nominal dose, day and visit. It's useful to check a couple of these. So I'm going to check nominal dose. Nominal dose stated here is 20. Nominal dose can be found in the PK concentration file, and when I check back, it's correct, it's 20. The next thing I'm going to check is the visit name. If I click on that, we have visit number 1 and 2, and this can be found in the stacked PK and specimen collection files. I've checked back on both of those files and those numbers are correct. And finally, I'm going to check the day in the source files. If I click on day, I have day 1 and day 23. Again, this information is correct, checked back against the stacked PK file in this case. That's where the information can be found. So my filters look like they have been populated appropriately. The other thing it's useful to do is to actually check some data points back to the source data file, just to ensure that the plots have been generated from the correct files. So I'm going to check my values, a couple of values on the analyte concentration over time plot. I'm going to look at cycle 1, subject 1. I have a value of, that's subject 2. Subject 1, I have a value of 8.16. This information can be found in the PK concentration file, and when I check back, I have 8.16. I'm also going to do the same for 2, 4.81, which is correct. And I'm going to check a different time point on cycle 2. So on cycle 2, I've selected subject 1 at visit 2, and the analyte concentration is 22.16. Checking back in my PK concentration file, that's correct. And I'm going to do the same for subject 2, and I have the value of 15.53, which matches the value in the system. So that is correct. I'm now going to go over to the dose proportionality exploration tab. And the first thing to do is just check that your visualization actually looks correct. So I can see my box and whiskers part here. If I hover over it, because this is a calculation, there's nothing I can check directly back in my file. But if I hover over it, it says it has a sample size of 2. We've already said that the dose proportionality exploration visualization is generated from the stacked PK source data file. And if I look in my stacked PK source data files, I have 2 patients, so that's correct. And what I can do is I can go into population filters, select subject ID. The 2 patients I have in the file are 1 and 2. If I apply that, The visualization is there and it's telling me that it's those two subjects, which is correct and matches my file. However, if I reset and select subjects 5 and 6 and apply, it's now telling me that there's no data to display, and again that's correct because in my PK stacked file there was only data for subjects T1 1 and T1 2. So it's just gives you confidence that when you have initially set up your mappings and loaded your data, that the data is loading correctly. It's advised to do that, do this check certainly the first time you load data, and then following that, subsequent to that, depends on the processes within your lab.